This is the KRON 4 Morning News.
Welcome back to the KRON 4 Morning News. Our developing story, the latest in the Michael Jackson death investigation. We've been showing you live pictures. This is it from Houston, Texas. This is a clinic owned by Dr. Conrad Murray, Michael Jackson's personal physician, raided by the DEA this morning as they continue their investigation right now.
Now, here to talk about what might be going on at this point in the case is Ivan Gold. And Ivan, you got to know Jackson personally as you covered the 2005 trial over child molestation charges.
Yes.
So you see this going on. We've talked a lot about the fact that they're going to be looking at all of Jackson's doctors and their roles in this, and they're really focused on this one.
Yes, they are. And the problem is this doctor was not licensed to prescribe medication in California. If they can make a link between what is in his office in Texas and what was in Jackson's house.
Right.
If they can see that he was taking prescription drugs from Texas to California and giving those drugs to Jackson, this doctor is in deep trouble. Furthermore, the Deprivan, which preliminary results have shown that was in Jackson's system.
Right.
If they find that in Dr. Murray's office, and they can link that somehow to Murray giving that to Michael Jackson through testimony, through other evidence. They are doing a thorough investigation in this case. Dr. Murray may be in more trouble than we thought.
Well, yeah. Hold on. How far can those charges go in that case?
Look. Involuntary manslaughter, is that a possibility? If they can link this Deprivan to Michael Jackson, it is a possibility. They're raiding his office. They are pushing Dr. Murray very, very, very closely here. They're looking at him. If there is something in Michael Jackson's house that's linked to his office in Texas, he was not licensed to prescribe drugs to Michael Jackson. Again, he's paid $150,000 a month. Michael Jackson is a celebrity. Michael Jackson coerced him or coaxed him to do this. Dr. Murray made a bad decision. If I, not licensed to practice law in another state, practiced law in another state, did a favor, did it for money, did it for greed, broke the rules, broke the law, and now he may be charged. If not involuntary manslaughter, he certainly took drugs from one state to another, administered drugs that he shouldn't have. He was not licensed to prescribe Oxycontin, Demerol, Xanax, any of these drugs to Michael Jackson. If he gave them to Michael Jackson, he's in trouble.
And that's the big if now.
And this is a high-profile case,
right.
And they will prosecute. They will send a clear message that through Dr. Murray, if Michael Jackson, if his death stands for anything, doctors will be on guard now not to be greedy, not to violate the law, not to do favors for celebrity clients or wealthy clients for money. It's got to stop, and that's what this case is going to stand for.
Just to clarify here, Dr. Murray is licensed to practice medicine in California.
He can practice medicine in California. He has a medical license, but he can't prescribe level 1, 2, 3, or 4 drugs. He can prescribe level 5, which is cough syrup. Nothing stronger than that in California. Why would Michael Jackson hire a doctor who cannot legally prescribe any medication to him? Why? Because this doctor will give him what he wants. Now, why would Dr. Murray take a chance and work for Michael Jackson and give him medication in a state that he's not licensed to give medication? Because of the money, $150,000 a month, be around Michael Jackson, travel with me. He was going to go on tour with Michael Jackson as well, get paid while he was on tour in London, get a per diem, get expenses, $150,000 a month. That's a lot of money. Work with Michael Jackson for years to come. He got greedy, and it's going to come back to haunt him.
Let's talk about the case now. We heard word that Dr. Conrad Murray will be questioned by investigators with the coroner's office in L.A. coming later this week. But now with the DEA involvement, are we looking at a federal prosecution, a federal case, or a state case?
And that's the key. It could be a federal case by bringing prescription drugs across state lines. That's the problem. There could be a federal prosecution. It certainly gives jurisdiction for a federal agency to investigate, and they're assisting the state in their investigation. I suspect if he's charged, it will be in the state courts in Los Angeles. And remember, Dr. Murray gave a very suspicious account to police. He did not call 911 for 30 minutes, claiming the phones were out of order. He didn't know Jackson's address, so he couldn't use his cell phone. What was he doing for those 30 minutes?
Well, he said he tried to revive Michael Jackson.
What could he have, what made the evidence, what would a jury think? Was he covering something up? There are other witnesses, bodyguards, cooks. There have been reports that Dr. Murray threw stuff in his car. They sanitized the scene. Did he Michael Jackson had a big...
They took his car, so they're looking at that.
Michael Jackson had a suitcase full of drugs and all sorts of things. Dr. Murray and other people may have thrown that or got rid of the evidence. There may be a cover. And remember, if Dr. Murray in some way hid evidence or covered up something up, that's another charge, and that will give a state of mind of guilt. And he may lose his license, could go to jail. This could be the end for Dr. Murray. But again, the real message from this case is that doctors have to be aware. If Michael's death stands for anything, it is that point.
Could this raid today, the DEA raid, be an indication that the LA coroner now has in their hands what they feel is a cause of death for Michael?
Yeah, well, there are preliminary reports that Deprivan that's anesthesia, not a prescription drug, an anesthesia.
Yeah.
So no doctor would prescribe an anesthesia for any medical need. That is something to put someone under for a procedure. All right?
Right.
There is enough evidence. They think they have a cause of death. The issue is, did Dr. Murray break the law? That's what they're trying to find out now. If he broke the law, they'll link the cause of death and Dr. Murray's violation of the law together. And if there's enough for involuntary manslaughter, so be it, or other charges.
Because just because you wouldn't prescribe anesthesia and you wouldn't put somebody out like they are in an operating room to sleep in their home, yes, that wouldn't rise to a criminal.
Yes, it could. It caused death. If Dr. Murray accidentally gave too much of a dose.
And Michael Jackson, there's a fine line with that stuff,
yes,
too.
Yes, and that's what expert tests do. That's why it'll be difficult to prove that the Deprivan caused his death.
Right.
But if they think it did, if an expert could say it possibly would, this is such an outrageous situation that they could charge him with murder.
So what's next here after this investigation? Obviously looking for some sort of link with serial numbers between possibly Deprivan that was in this Houston clinic to maybe things they find inside Michael Jackson's rented home.
What they have to do as thorough an investigation as possible. That's the key. More investigation, more evidence. Before they it's difficult to charge a doctor with criminal wrongdoing, just like a police officer.
Yeah.
It's very, very rare. A complete investigation, have all the facts, have everything lined up, and then move forward with the prosecution. They have to figure out, the district attorney's office has to figure out, is it murder? Was it just unlawful prescribing prescription drugs? What exactly?
Accidental, negligence, anything?
Exactly.
Right.
What are we going to charge this doctor with? We have to figure this out. What really happened? What will the evidence point to? And what can we charge this doctor with? It's a complicated...
I'm sorry, about a week and a half ago, the thought was that no one may be charged in this case. What significant things have changed in the case?
One is that we now know the doctor was not licensed to prescribe medication in California. That is a glaring, glaring situation that we didn't know. Now we know that. Now everything opens up. The Deprivan now, we know it was in Michael Jackson's system. That is a real revelation. We have those two revelations with this doctor who has a history of in his office with the DEA. The guy who owned the doctor who owns the office that's being raided by the DEA had prior problems with the DEA for prescribing illegal drugs. All this stuff linked together, it's a mountain of evidence, so to speak, and it points to Dr. Murray. Is it murder, though? I think that's the real question. Is this murder or involuntary manslaughter? It's still up in the air. It's still going to be difficult to prove. I still say, I stand by my prediction, it won't be involuntary manslaughter or murder, but this doctor will definitely lose his license.
Okay, and yeah, I mean, and why you're saying that it's difficult is because all of the experts who've talked about this drug in particular say that there is such a fine line between what you can take effectively and how much you take that will kill you.
But the point is, it is not to be used just to sleep. It's an anesthesia. If this doctor is giving Michael Jackson this anesthesia to help him sleep, that is such malpractice. We know that, and that's negligence. Is it murder, though, Dario? That's the question. Is it murder?
And we're looking live, as you can see in the box here, the picture from Houston. This is outside the clinic where Dr. Murray runs this clinic in Houston, and the DEA inside right now, DEA agents at the door, and you can see the hospital staff or the clinic staff and presumably some patients all escorted outside and waiting outside in the parking lot while the DEA conducts their investigation.
And you know, Mark, we've talked about Ivan about the fact that this doctor has already been questioned twice, right? And they're going to talk to him a third time. When they keep going back, are they going back because they keep having more and more evidence, or they go back because they forget something, or they want to? It's harder.
They ask him. They get his statement. That's why many times a defendant should not cooperate with the authorities at all. In fact, I'm surprised that he would even speak to the authorities. They get his statement. They try to verify it.
Right.
Is this guy lying or not? Does something not add up?
So they go back number 2.
They go back and they say, doctor, this isn't exactly what you said. Can you explain this? He gives another explanation.
Right.
You go back and verify that. Are the drugs what he said? Are they where he said they were? Do things add up? If they don't add up, you go back to him again. You find the doctor making inconsistent statements. If you find him making inconsistent statements, you know he's lying.
But so you're saying better for him not to speak at all?
Absolutely. He should not have said a word to the authorities. He should have called his lawyer. His lawyer should have told him, do not talk. I will make the statement. Let the lawyer talk to the authorities, and that is it. This is what happens when a defendant starts talking. They lie, they make inconsistent statements, they're scared, and they come back and haunt them, and they give the police leverage to do further investigation. They almost help in their own conviction.
He seemed to be one of the few people cooperating, where we saw reports that there were other doctors who had treated Michael Jackson in the past refused to cooperate and wouldn't answer questions.
Yes, and that's what he should have done. But he thought he could talk his way out of it. Maybe he was scared. He made a bad decision. His lawyers are in Texas. I don't know why he didn't hire a lawyer in California.
Right.
There was confusion. He also had a publicist, Dr. Conrad Murray. Why would you have a publicist talking to the media? It's been a fiasco. He's scared now.
Well, this is a guy who his lawyer says today, Ivan, he's like, the guy can't practice. He's being followed. He has to have bodyguards 24/7. Everybody's angry. We have Joe Jackson coming out pointing the finger at him. I mean, the heat is on this guy.
Remember, he is a doctor. He is the professional. If Michael Jackson had a substance problem, Michael Jackson wants illegal drugs or drugs that he doesn't need. A doctor, a trained doctor, should know better and tell Michael Jackson what he can and cannot do according to the law. You take an oath as a doctor, you take an oath as a police officer, you take an oath as a lawyer. You don't violate that oath no matter who the patient is.
Ivan Gold, we greatly appreciate your insight and joining us here this morning as we continue to look live from Houston, Texas, as the DEA raiding Dr. Conrad Murray's clinic right now, the personal physician for Michael Jackson. And we'll be right back on KRON 4 after the break.